Who am I? Who am I going to be? What am I going to do? These questions were probably the most frequently asked questions in every person's life, especially by students. And even now, whatever we do, we may still ask these questions. And actually, these questions go back to our school time, when we all had some important stage in our lives where we had to make a key decision. The decision that could determine much of what we're going to do in the future. You know, for the majority of us, it was which university to choose, what job we want to do, and all the things we want to accomplish in the long run. And the answers were not clear for many of us. Many students had to choose their professions, their universities, without knowing clear answers to these questions. And now, I would like to ask you a question. What should high schools teach us? And I want you to close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. And think of one or two things that you wish you could have learned earlier at your schools before choosing your university or profession or major. One or two things. Take your time. You ready? You can open your eyes? Okay. So I want you to keep these things in mind while I share with you my own journey out of confusion and some specific skills that high school should be perhaps teaching us and have it on a par with academic skills. So, at schools that I attended, I was a vibrant kid. I wanted to do so many things at the same time. I was curious, naive, and I only had pipe dreams. At some point in my life, I wanted to be a minister of education. I also thought of becoming a Hollywood actor like Will Smith. I wanted to be a world champion boxer like Muhammad Ali. I wanted to be a comedian like Peter Russell. I was so crazy to think that one day I can become a football player like Cristiano Ronaldo, Park Ji-sung, former Manchester United player, and all the stars of football world. And guess what? The problem was that I only had half-baked ideas. And I'm sure many students had the same problem, or maybe still have. And these types of situations were so common in my classroom, maybe not only mine, where teachers asked us what we want to do in the future, and we had to respond in these embarrassing ways. At least today, it seems to be embarrassing. And that's a true story, by the way. Many of my friends, including me, didn't know what we want exactly to do in the future. And only later, I realized that schools will not always teach us the things we want to learn, and not always help us to become who we want to be. Although I know schools are the best place, for exploring school subjects like math, biology, chemistry, its formula, study skills, and so on. There was one thing missing: life skills. I understood that at schools, we are not always taught the life skills that will be necessary, first of all, in our personal careers. The life skills such as strategies for finding the right career path. Let's imagine if at high schools, along with other subjects, we taught students how to search for a job, which social media to use, what kind of people to talk to, which tools to apply. Or, things like networking, all the secrets of networking important in today's world of business. Or if we focused a little bit more on students' critical thinking and showed its daily applications, whenever we students have to choose or decide between options and between offers, by developing critical thinking, we could actually develop their decision-making and help these students to analyze their problems from different perspectives and maybe help them to evaluate job offers in the long run. So you can think, yo boy, this is not the responsibility of schools to teach these things. And probably these are personal things to teach how to choose what to do after high school. But we could all foster more successful students if we did teach these life skills before we students go to college, choose a profession or a job or anything else. So I didn't know these things that I just told you. I just was a kid who didn't know exactly what he was doing, right? And I just came up with these things recently when I was finishing my first year in my high school in my country. And I wanted to find the answers like many other people. And I thought, I'm not chasing questions. Questions are chasing me. They're haunting me every day. Who are you going to be? I don't know. I don't know yet. Who are you going to be? Maybe a businessman? Something like that. And these questions were chasing. And my parents always told me to study harder, as many parents do. And my mom always told me, why not you start reading books and find some answers here instead of jumping from one opinion to another, instead of being a minister of education one day and a Hollywood actor the next day? So yeah, I was encouraged. I was encouraged to read more. And I immersed myself into self-development books, which I didn't have in the school syllabus. So after reading, along the way, I became a great fan of TED Talks. And eventually, after much studying, and after reading the book, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, my life has changed. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be a motivational speaker, a life coach who could influence people and pull them out of their depressions and change their lives for better. Yeah, I want to be that person still. And the book has awakened something inside of me. And I have learned many lifelong tips that we don't usually talk about at schools. And I want to share one of them. I had problems at schools, like everybody. Problems like math. I'm sure many of you had problems with math, right? You had? I kind of had math phobia. I didn't want to go to lessons. And I also had difficulties with learning English. I just didn't know. And I always wondered, stand in the middle, and asked, why just can't I achieve 100 points out of 100 points? And surprisingly, this was easier question. The harder question was, why can't just I decide what I want exactly? And I've learned that this is vital to change the strategies to make better decisions. If I don't have any strategies, how am I going to decide what I want to be? And only after reading that book, I realized that. I've learned my lesson. I wanted to win regional school Olympiads. Yes, I wanted to succeed in math, but didn't know how because I had the same strategies of learning and I couldn't decide. And yeah, I wish we students could have learned these things like decision-making, strategies, before we go to college, before we choose our majors or professions or anything else. So, guess what? With this knowledge, with this, I can say, fire in the belly, my friend and I decided to open a club in my local library, a club called Pep Talks. And we simply created that club to motivate our peers, our friends, to inspire them to study harder and to find out what they want. And this is my friend, a co-founder of Pep Talks. And this summer, we were given a talk about motivation. An amazing thing happened to me. Before I gave a speech, one guy came up to me and said something in my Uzbek language. Khumoyun, Pep Talks hayotimni o'zgartirdi. Well, this simply meant Pep Talks has changed his life. And this sentence was enough for me to understand that the project was not in vain, that at least it mattered. It changed a person's life. He thanked me for the knowledge that we shared at Pep Talks. He said he wanted to go to China, but didn't know how. After my speech, he was inspired to learn English, so he took his proficiency score, applied for Chinese university, and got admitted. And I was so crazy. I got so happy. And my friend and I felt like we were Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak working on something big that needed support to be spread all over the world. And as you see now, I'm here at TEDx, the best place to start sharing these ideas, right? So, such education that I want the world to have can change the strategies that students use for choosing, for deciding what they want to do. And the life skills that we have already talked about can be taught in special life skill classes, where teachers can help us to analyze our strengths, our weaknesses, our personality, and help us to figure out career paths that really match our personality, work on our talents, and boost our creativity, which is a skill I realize now very important in any kind of work. Or in these classes, we students could learn more about communication. I still know that many students don't know how to communicate, how to talk to each other. I had problems with talking to girls. I just couldn't come up to girls and start the conversation. And I always if I was lucky and in the conversation, I thought, oh my God, what I'm going to say next? And then I said to myself, I'm never going to be able to work with a woman if she is my boss or my colleague. And, building communication earlier, learning how to build it, would be a very useful skill to learn at high schools. What is more, in these classes, we could learn negotiation skills. Every day, we have to negotiate. We have to talk, go to market, negotiate the price. Or things like people management, coordinating, and problem solving. How many of you had group projects? Can you raise your hands? Oh my God, you all literally had group projects and you had to coordinate, solve some problems which arise during the process of collaboration. And these also are most linked to communication skills. And lastly, flexibility and emotional intelligence. Again, this goes to communication. Whenever I talk to people, I noticed if I say this, am I gonna hurt him? Do I have to be a little bit flexible? Do I have to look at people's emotions? If he is in the right mood, shall I say this word? And learning this skill of talking, which is called rapport, is very crucial to understand for a student who is going to apply for a job, who is going to have a job interview, and maybe power pose may not help if he doesn't know these things, right? So these things should be taught because, as the research shows by World Economic Forum, these are top 2020 skills, meaning that employers will not only look at our grades, but also at some X factors. And in this case, there's life skills. And all in all, by combining these life skills with study skills, the schools can become the best place for personal development. Really? Yes? So we have a lot of skills to work on before we go to college or choose a profession, right? So I'm here to call on you to help, to create societies where the youth are not afraid of the failures, where they can find fulfillment in their careers, jobs, relationships, communication, and where they can just be happy with what they're doing. And with this knowledge of life skills, they will be able to execute on their dreams, which used to be mere fantasies. And I believe we can do it. We should be doing this. And we can actually start doing it now. Thank you very much.